It's really fun to keep this facilitator train moving while we're also having everyone facilitate along the way. And I can see you all step up in small ways. And then, of course, it's been awesome to see you, doing the host role, leading the activities, and etc. So, yeah, that's really great. I know Cynthia's led an activity. Linda and Vicki have both hosted along the way. So Justin just hosted Toastmasters. So you're all getting a chance to show off your skills. And I hope look at this in a little slightly different light. I mean, again, you guys are all experienced facilitators. We know you're not doing this for the first time, but to do it with more awareness, I'd love to have that be part of our check-in this morning of just, what is new with facilitation for you?
Yeah, please jump in and share. I'd love to hear, Cynthia just did a 45-minute activity at CBC. I'd love to hear about that and then everyone else's experience. And honestly, Justin, the difference, in Toastmasters facilitation.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
You want me to start in right?
Please.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, just show us an update.
Are you frozen like a goat? You just keep
Well, I think what I would love to do is touch in on Amanda. What I mentioned to you when we spoke on the phone was so I facilitated an activity, and it was about helping us uncover the deeper want in our clients, and really going past the what's the pet peeve showing up in them, I'm just really annoyed about X, and then how you kind of dig deeper to what they're truly yearning and looking for. And I received feedback that the story I shared was helpful, and that felt really good because I shared about 2 8th grade boys I had experienced and how much energy can move when we talk about things like our pet peeves and we're allowed just to get some of that blah out of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt good to use a story that wasn't necessarily about me. It was use an example of someone else, and I saw the power of that. And then Jeff, your feedback was just so valuable about, when we're facilitating an experience, how we ask people to kind of dive in and get a little bit vulnerable and a little more authentic. But then how do we bring them back out of that in some really usable, everything we're doing in this experience ties back to you as an entrepreneur and your end goals of clients and money and vision. And so that is still my growth process. And I think I use this metaphor with you, Amanda, of putting the things in the backpack that we're going to use and then zipping up the backpack at the end of the experience of here's exactly how you're going to use this. And I did receive feedback from someone as well who said, this was awesome, and I still need help knowing exactly how to apply this in a real way.
Awesome.
And just being authentic, that zipping up the backpack is something I've struggled with for a while, even as a teacher. And so I know metaphor works really well for me in my brain. So I mentioned to Amanda, is there a way I can use metaphor to tie up those end pieces if I don't necessarily feel like I know how to make it a perfect linear step by step? So.
Awesome. Really good awareness, Cynthia. Really, really awesome. Yeah, I know we got a chance to talk as well. So cool. Finding strengths, finding edges of growth. That's good. Thank you. Who's next? Vicki just hosted on Wednesday.
Good morning. You know, that did give me a really different perspective about having and running a meeting. I think of other groups I have attended where particularly the leader chronically asks, like, what do you want out of the group or something like that. And I really saw the power of having an agenda and the supporting roles. When you have roles, it really does involve more people in the group, and or supposedly, right? I mean, some of those role people didn't show up, but or had last minute issues and couldn't be there, but still it helps to unite the group and bring it together. And hi Amber, I just noticed the power of having an agenda and having some intentionality go into the group. Just kind of keeps things moving, keeps everybody unified. It makes for a much more productive meeting than, well, here we are, we're meeting again today. What are we gonna do?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, so much more purposeful and really
what are you
to see it from that side.
Yeah. And what are you noticing about you in relationship with facilitation? Any ahas lingering today?
Just that it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it and look forward to doing more of that.
Good.
Nice. Yeah, Vicki, Amanda, and I happened to chat, and we loved how you added in the stretch break before the activity. You just like used that as your personality, and you added that in, and you decided that and went with it, and it was great.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, very cool. So I love how you added in, and I love how you added in something you felt would be best for the group. Something short, even though it wasn't on the schedule, it wasn't on the agenda necessarily, but you stepped up and did that. Yeah.
Thanks. I really sensed today the energy of the group. Everybody needs to get up and move right now.
Nice.
We're all tired of sitting. We got to do something.
Nice.
Yeah, that's actually just really quick a interesting point about creating a solid agenda that has the bones, but hopefully does leave room for a little bit of interpretation, new facilitator personality. Like we try to do that with the choices of the questions at BBC. But it's a balance of how much do you leave open, how much do you not, and so I'm so glad that you felt really comfortable just like putting that in there. This is awesome. And you didn't ask. Some facilitators ask, and they're like, "Can we do this?" And I'm like, "It's your show, man. You got to take the lead." And you didn't even have that wobble, so that was great.
Yeah, and to Amanda's point, that's going to vary depending on the culture of your group. I mean, the cool thing about us here is we've all been to many, many networking groups and things and organizations, and there's definitely some that would frown upon you moving away from the minute-by-minute agenda. And certainly that's not exactly the culture, right? Our culture at CBC is different. Your culture in your particular group, whatever it may be different than that. But like Amanda said, being aware of that and working within those boundaries is exactly what you did, Vicki. So that was great.
Oh, great. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to use that intuitive piece, and just when I sense what needs to be done, and it was just so natural to do it. It didn't even give it a thought, really.
That was great.
And I appreciate having the flexibility to be able to do that. It also gave me some insight between being so I was the host, really was my role, but I see the difference between a facilitator and a host, so that when I am facilitating my own group, I see that by having a host and having people do these roles, that really gives me a lot of support to be able to also enjoy the group and not just get burned out because everything's up to me all the time.
That's a really good point. Amanda and I will get into that this week about the container that we hold as the facilitator. That's a really good point. Yeah. So yeah, please, Linda, I'd love for you to jump in and talk about your recent, leadership roles that you've taken on in either CBC or compare it to another group in a few minutes.
So I'm trying to do, mine's got such brain fog since I haven't slept since 2. But for me, I noticed that I'm just more observant of that thought. If I were facilitating right now, what would I do throughout the meetings? It doesn't matter which one, I'm in that mindset. So, it's one of the things I thought of is like watching Mary struggle with being a host. I'm thinking, wow, it would be great to if somebody has not hosted before, to go through it with them and go through the schedule with them, and make sure they're not reading it for the first time when they're sitting in front of everybody. Ask them to show up 5 minutes early, and here it is, read through the schedule, pick a question, so they're not feeling, even though they've watched it over and over again, other people doing it themselves, especially if it's not in their comfort zone. I think that would make them shine a lot more. And that was probably the big thing I saw coming out.
That's really interesting, Linda. Now, you were here on Wednesday when Vicki hosted, were you?
I wasn't there on Wednesday. I was already being nailed with this crud.
Yeah. It was Mary's first time to host on Tuesday, and it was Vicki's first time to host on Wednesday. And the difference was quite dramatic.
I bet.
I
bet.
So that is interesting.
And I think that you could kind of judge it and see if somebody's more timid, or somebody like Vicki, I wouldn't think twice about it. And not knowing Mary enough, I wouldn't have known how much to step in. But maybe just that would be something I think I would try and do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually, what that makes me think is maybe speaking with, for instance, Mary after the prior meeting, because the funny thing is I did go through the agenda with her.
Yeah.
We did walk through it. And so you're just seeing, I think, a lot of the natural abilities and personality, but that's a really good point that maybe someone that's a little bit more not used to facilitation, maybe after the prior meeting or something, having a good 10 minutes, to really talk through it. So it isn't just that morning. So it's funny though, 'cause we did go through it. That's interesting feedback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cynthia.
And I have an idea too. Go for it.
I'm just wondering about the idea of when something is so new, the how do I even start this out of my mouth? And so those ideas of sentence starters for how you even start each part, at least for me, that's how I have to move myself from total freeze of I don't know how to even start this to, okay, now the ball's rolling. So that's just something that popped into my head.
Cool.
Well, you are just going to love today's topic then. Because we got some sentence starters for you.
I thought of one other thing that I can't remember who said it, but she was coming up, maybe it was Mary Elizabeth, had said, because it's somebody who came a lot, and she was coming up to being a host, and she said, oh, I need to pay attention to what they do now, because I'm going to be doing it. So even just cueing in the week before of paying attention to what somebody does.
And that was kind of my idea, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Justin, about this when you share, because in Toastmasters, we all get the agenda every single time because there's just different things to track. It makes sense in Toastmasters. It wouldn't really make sense at CBC, but the thing that does is sets you up for knowing you've seen that agenda 100 times by the time you host. Maybe to have them follow along the agenda with the host the time before they host could be an idea. But Justin, as a Toastmaster who's seen that agenda a bunch, did that make it easier for you to host, would you say?
Well, absolutely. And the Toastmaster agenda has actual time frames that things are supposed to go by. Like by 10 minutes in the meeting, we should be here, and 15 minutes in the meeting, we should be here, and this amount of time is blocked out for this. So it's really easy to follow, and it also tells you who has what role, who's supposed to speak when. So yes, it's very easy to follow and facilitate that way. And I agree with you. Your point, Amanda, is that if somebody were to have seen that agenda several times before and the prior meetings, that it would have helped. And I don't know if you remember, but 2 weeks ago when Ann Barron hosted, it was kind of a similar thing. She was pretty lost on what to do. She didn't, she didn't know what a matchmaker was even. So she tried to go up and do it herself. And so there's just a lot of things that better prepared for. And my role at Toastmasters, I felt I was pretty good prepared. However, I did show up I showed up on the meeting right on time instead of 5 minutes early, which did kind of set me behind because my job was to pass out the agenda to everyone and then talk to the two speakers that were speaking and get their introductions. So we were a little behind from that, and so that was on me. So I know it's important as a facilitator to be a little early to the meetings, but I think it is very important to have at least prepared a little bit for the role instead of just jumping in on a whim, kind of like I think Ann and it sounds like Mary had to do.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It does seem that even someone who's seen it done a bunch of times, when it's your turn to do it, it's just different. It's just,
sure, yeah.
You forget what a matchmaker is. You forget, like what different things are, even though you've been there a million times. So.
And Toastmasters is triple that because between each thing, there's certain roles you have to do as a Toastmaster. You have to ask for timers reports. You have to pass this envelope around. Then you have to introduce this person at this point. And there's such little interests. And the week before, I was writing down notes when the other Toastmaster was up, and she had forgotten a couple of the timers reports, etc. And she had been Toastmaster like several times over. So I know it's not easy to do all that, and I think the CBC host role, people come in thinking it's going to be a piece of cake, it's on the paper for me there to do, and they think it's probably easier than it actually is.
Justin, you said something really good. You took notes. So maybe encouraging the person to take notes of what they observe for the next time. If you got that.
Yeah, that's a great tool. Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, Amber, I'd love for you to jump in and give some feedback on that and what you see at CBC. And I know that you've hosted, of course, more than once, I'm sure. How many times have you hosted at CBC, Amber?
Oh, maybe 3 or 4.
Cool.
Yeah.
So please, let's hear your thoughts.
Well, so it's interesting to me that it doesn't really seem to be a matter of comfort in front of people or even knowing the routine, because particularly with Mary and Ann, I mean, those people are not shy people, right? They're both of them. They're, I don't know Ann as well, but I know Mary pretty well. And she's an extrovert, like a super extrovert. So it's really interesting to see the shift in people when they have to go up and be on stage. So it's really a different skill set. And I think it's kind of important to frame it as a skill set and not part of your identity. You're a good host, you're a bad host, right? This is a skill set where you have a particular structure. And I think actually it's all being really clear on structure, right? I mean, and you can diverge within that structure, but if you're really clear on what the structure is, that actually frees you up to bring yourself to the meeting, your personality, your fun, your stretching exercise, whatever it is. But having a really clear structure is, and, knowing what the basic skills that you need to bring to that moment are, I think that's what makes it successful or not. I think where it really gets hard for people is when it starts becoming about them and their identity, right? Really, this is And that's that's a big load for people to carry. It's a big load for me to carry. Yes, maybe some people love it, but yeah, I like the idea very much of it being about tools and having that be really clear. Okay, so the tools you need to bring to this are staying on time, staying on script, being really present in the room. Do you know what I'm saying? It might be interesting to explore that. Those of you who run, so many meetings, like what are the 3 things that you need to be cognizant of to really make this work?
I love that. On previous versions of the agenda, we used to have this little block in the corner. Maybe, Linda, you remember this. And it said, like, be bold, have fun. It was just like this big color block that reminded you to just go for it. So maybe we could implement that as our way of anchoring this feeling of, take the reins and describe some of the skill sets,
Yeah, I love that point of view, Amber, of it's a skill set. It's not about whether they're like extroverted or good with people. It's a totally different skill set. I love that thought. Yeah.
So great.
Good. And yeah, so on that note, as far as having structure, I've created a keynote for us today.
Hey.
So, oh yes, I love this sunset picture. And let me jump to the next slide here. Today we're talking about managing timing, pacing, and then also difficult situations. And I think this has been an awaited training today, an awaited session to talk about, man, how do I handle those tough situations? And we're going to go through about 15 we have created already, leadership phrases and scripts and sentence starters. And I will, as we go, I'll take notes, of course, and add any others that we all come up with today so that we can share those out with you after our training today.
Our goal for you today is if you can manage these about 9 different types of difficult situations, if you can get this down, you are pretty much bulletproof as a facilitator, because this is most of what's going to be thrown at you. And, so we want to prepare you for that and get you the most tools as we can.
Yeah, let's jump right in. So Amanda and I sat down and we've brainstormed, and I'm sure there's others, but these are the top 9 difficult situations. I love this little picture of this kid trying to figure out, like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, these are the stumpers that stump facilitators, and they're like, oh, it's sticky, it's hard. So we want to prepare you as much as possible.
Yeah, and again, we have scripts for you all as well. So we'd love for you to take notes as we go, and then we will share out all the information from the slides after our training today as well, just so you know.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do was just have a little discussion here of a quick story, if you can think of a story where you've seen any of these situations handled really well in other groups. Going over time, someone just telling an unrelated story, someone maybe being too much of a devil's advocate or not wanting to do the activity and it kind of throws the activity off, over unsolicited advice or over coaching, hostile guest, differing cultural backgrounds. Someone comes in and they just have different norms, having to ask for money, dues, donations, addressing the cultural expectations within the group, like getting someone back on track, laying a boundary. Or the 9th one, honoring the elephant in the room, might be something that's going on outside the meeting that is so obvious that you have to address it inside the meeting. It could be as simple as like a sound going on outside, construction or something like that. Or it could be like, there was just a terrorist attack, or there was just a death in the country, or a big, something happened in either the outside culture or maybe somebody in the group experienced something that is so on everyone's mind, they're all wondering about it, that you have to address it.
So let's go around just to facilitate this a little bit more specifically. I'd like to go through everyone and pick one of these and tell us a time when you remember, yeah, that was handled pretty well. And then Amanda and I will touch on some more, and you can see over on the side, we have some more slides to go through as well. So let's just start with Vicki. Vicki, I'd love for you to choose one of these and tell us a short story of when you remember, oh yeah, wow, that happened, and this is how it was handled well.
So honoring the elephant in the room comes to mind, and it was actually it was a pretty amazing experience for me. I was leading a class, and we had handouts and stuff, and literally right above us, above the ceiling tiles, some manner of construction started. And there was somebody in the room from the school where I was speaking, and she did nothing. She just sat there. But the sound of power tools completely drowned out any conversation. And so there was nothing to do except stand there and wait. And we just kind of all looked at each other. And then when there was a lull in the construction activity, I found this blurting out of my mouth, which I picked up an outline. I just said, hey, do you guys want an outline up there? And everybody laughed, but they had stopped. So I think they didn't realize that they were doing what they were doing right over an active classroom.
Wow.
I felt like it was just a totally divinely inspired moment. So it was, that's the first thing that came to my mind. I mean, how can you ignore that? Yeah.
That's beautiful. And they actually stopped after that, you said. Oh
yeah,
my
they
gosh.
must have heard me. They must have gone, oh, there's a class down there. We can't do this now.
Wow, you can't handle it much better than that. You actually stopped the thing happening.
Well, Vicki, I love how you made a joke out of it and addressed it in a fun way. So fantastic. Yeah.
Super great.
Amber, please, I'd love for you to jump in.
Okay, so going over time, I think this is a real challenge in most meetings. And I think when it's handled the best, when things are going astray, it's, like Vicki did, really keeping a sense of humor about it and keeping it light, instead of being angry or frustrated or, the other things you could do, right? Like, well, time warp has occurred again. We got to wrap up now, and we'll, resume again next time we meet. And, just say it with a smile. That always makes it a really different experience for the people there. They feel, respected, and it keeps it fun and light, and makes you, like, I've also been at meetings where it wasn't handled as well, where, it became really tense at the end, and, it made it feel like, I don't know, less welcoming to come back and continue the next time.
Yeah, those darn time warps.
Yeah.
I like that. I like saying that. Oh, it appears we've gone through a time warp here. Do you happen to remember real quick how it was handled not so well? Like what was said that made it a little sticky?
Less the words than the faces, and the faces were like this. Well, we've gone over, and some of us have to go to another meeting in 5 minutes, so, I guess we're not going to get to everything on the agenda. Come on, let's wrap it up, people. That sort of thing.
Gotcha. So like it was a bad thing, and, we're all frustrated, now we're all late, and all that.
Yeah, right. Like, all the fun things or the productive things or the, tribe feeling that we'd had, right before that. Instead, it's like all of that's just been invalidated because we're late and we got another meeting,
Yeah.
So I think it's important not to lose all the great momentum that you've built up to that point when you suddenly realize the time warp has occurred.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there it is, time warp. We're wrapping up now. It's, whatever time it is, 9:30, whatever.
Yes.
It's been great, and we'll pick up where we left off next time, or look for the email with the notes, and have a great day. Just a clean break with a smile that honors the work that's been done so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, keeping the energy up, like you said, the connection within that tribe feeling, just being aware of that and not not throwing a wet blanket on it right at the end there.
Yeah, like we talked about last week, you're there to make everything right. You're kind of making it okay. Even if a difficult situation comes up, you're going to smooth that over a bit. And, as much as you can. Sometimes, it's not like we're telling you to fix it, make it look like it's never happened, but just to make it the best it can be, you have a lot of power to do that in that role.
Yeah, and like Vicki mentioned, that's one of our roles as the facilitator, is that like make it all right, make it cool, make it part of life, and things happen, and here we go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, Justin, I'd love for you to jump in.
Sorry. Well, I think the number 5, hostile guest, what comes to mind was the CBC meeting, what was it, about 2 or 3 months ago? And Jeff, I think you were either leading the activity or maybe it was Amanda, I can't remember. But the lady with the French accent that kept trying to take over the meeting several times throughout the meeting, like she went over her time in her introduction. She asked questions without really asking questions. She was just making random statements and comments and taking up so much of the time. And I thought you guys handled that very well. I wish I remembered who exactly was. I think, Jeff, you were doing an activity and Amanda was hosting or something like that. And it was just, she kept trying to not take over the meeting, and I felt there was a good job of not letting her, fully take over the meeting. And then the timer did a good job, letting the timer go off a few times to let her know that, she was over her time. And I think one of you had mentioned that you talked to her after the meeting about it a little bit. But I think that was handled pretty well. I could have really destroyed the whole meeting, but it didn't.
Well, thank you. Do you recall any one particular tip or trick we could mention here that you saw that you liked?
Well, like I said, I like the timer going off several times, and I think Amanda made the comment that's a great point. Let's talk about that after the meeting, or let's do that on the side. And I've seen that a lot throughout many meetings before. They're like, well, we don't have time to cover that, but I would love to, address your point after the meeting, so that they still feel that their opinion is valued, but it doesn't actually control the whole meeting.
Nice.
And I do have a huge example of number 9 going wrong, if you want to hear that.
Yeah, let me bring that back up. Yeah, please.
So the honoring the elephant in the room. So when 9/11 happened, I was a freshman in college, and it happened right before our class started. Our classes were at 9 o'clock, and the attacks happened at 8. At least the first plane hit the tower at 8, and then on the way to the class was when the Pentagon was hit. And I went to school in Virginia, and we had a math professor who was from Germany, who was still insisted on having class because we didn't know at the time the full details of what was going on. So we were there, and then we heard about one of the students heard about the Pentagon through a text on their phone, which back then a text was a big deal because texting had just came out. And her father was working at the Pentagon, so she raised her hand and asked the professor if we could adjourn because the Pentagon had just gotten attacked. And his response was, no, let's not worry about things we can't control. That's not important right now. Let's just have some fun with math. And the whole class just was like, are you kidding me? And we just got up and left. And he was so mad. He was trying to chase everybody down and shut the door and not let us out. And
what?
Yes, it was so horrible. And it was so incompassionate and inconsiderate. And it turns out that girl's father was one of the last people to get out of the Pentagon, but was fine. He lived. But they didn't hear from him for several hours, and it was quite an experience for that girl, and he just did not handle that well at all. And when we had our 9/11 memorial after that, she went up there and talked about that professor, and I think he got suspended, but it was just not the way to handle that at all. So.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So I would put that comment in the category of like normalizing behavior. Sometimes it is appropriate to just be like, you know what, that's what's going on, but everything's normal. And that was an example of not a good choice to normalize it. You got to address it and honor it head on. And especially if her dad was being affected, that's really, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think he could have been like, at least let her out of the room and call people that she needed to call if he insisted on the rest of the class go. But the rest of the class wanted to turn on the TV, which they had in the room, to see what was going on, and he wouldn't allow that either. So we all just ended up getting up and leaving. I mean, it was almost like a unanimous decision. No one asked, hey, we're leaving. Everybody just stood up and walked out. So
yeah, that's phenomenal. There's a lot of examples in there of different points. So one is, and we'll talk about this in a different slide as well, but one is offering the choice to the people. Like, if you need to take care of yourself, go ahead and feel like you can take care of yourself. And of course, he also alienated himself forever by doing that, trying to, have fun with math for the rest of the 30 minutes or whatever. He gave up the rest of his his career, maybe even, it sounds like, at that school, certainly in that class, to try to, jam in those 30 minutes. So it's very short-sighted what he did, obviously. And so, yeah, thank you for that story.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, Linda, please, I'd love for you to jump in. Let me back to the list here. There we are.
Okay, in my break from coffee, yay. Boy, there's a couple of them that I remember. I mean, one is obviously the guy that was off his meds that came in Loveland.
Yeah.
And was really disruptive. And it was, Jeff, you handled him so well. I was so impressed watching the entire group handle him.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody stepped up. Everybody tried to involve him. And we also kind of, okay, it's time to sit down now. I mean, it was to that level where we had to tell him to sit down. And I just really appreciated how we didn't let him disrupt we continued on with everything that we were trying to do. And, I think that there was a point where we were willing to ask him to leave if he got out of hand, but also we're quite aware that had we done that, it could have gotten worse. It could have escalated, which I think afterwards it probably would have. So I appreciate how everybody handled that. And then I remember way back, I think probably Amanda, you were the only one that might remember this, was way back when we were still at the church. There was a guy that came in one time that was just really hostile. I mean, he was like Donald Trump type, checking out the group. Do you remember him at all, Amanda?
Sorry, not yet.
Huh? You don't remember him?
I'm searching, but I don't have
Yeah, so he came in, he wasn't, I can't even remember if he was dressed in a suit or not, but he was, you guys, the whole thing, you guys, you people, you, and I don't see a reason why I'm wasting my time here. And I finally moved over to him and sat next to him. So I'm really interested in what you're wanting to, what kind of group you're trying to find. It doesn't, this may not be the right fit for you. And because he was so disruptive in the whole thing, just really condescending with everybody and everybody's comments. And so I finally, I sat down and I told him, I tried to pull him to the side and have a conversation with him. And in the end, I said, you're probably right. This is not the right group for you. Because he was really at that point of, you guys don't have anything to offer me. I am, so far above everybody here that you should be worshiping my feet because I have so much experience in business. And he was just like absolute disdain for everyone. And so I actually did pull him to the side and tried talking about, here's my business. What, would you like to talk about that? Would you like to, what do you do? How would you relate to that? And I mean, he did actually give me one piece of good advice. I said, if you're looking for people to give advice to, I'd be happy to take some advice from you. And but I also, at the end, it's like, you're right. Maybe this is not the right group for you. And here's a couple suggestions of other groups that you might want to look at.
Yeah.
And because he was just so disruptive in the group.
So weird. I totally blocked him out. I don't remember. Yeah. But I mean, of course, I think the instinct there is to talk one-on-one.
Right.
For sure, with people that are maybe wanting to grandstand or, claim some of the room, because we have to do, as Justin stated, value them and not let them control.
Right.
So the best way to do that, of course, is one-on-one.
Yeah. So I mean, that was, I just got so frustrated listening to him. When we had a chance to break apart for some activity, I just pulled him to the side.
That's a pretty leadership instinct to go toward a problem versus, oh, that guy's weird. Let's just let him, muck up the rest of the group.
Yeah, because I mean,
if you move away from him, he's going to kind of pollute the rest of the group. So as a leader toward a problem.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, that one, it felt like I was in one way stepping over my boundaries, but in the other way, I felt very protective of the group because he was really, I could feel like people feeling badly about what they were celebrating because he was really poo-pooing it all the way through.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it is saying this is not the right group for you.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to comment on. So, of course, we want to honor them, like almost regardless of anything. Kids, adults, we want to honor them first and then address what's going on. And that mindset of, I'm not trying to bring every person in the planet into my group. Like, I don't want every person on the planet as my client. And this may not be a fit, and be totally willing to just have that honest conversation. By the way, when you said that, did that sort of disarm him a little bit?
It totally disarmed him, and he got off his high horse a little bit. 'Cause, I mean, at first he was really taken aback. Like, what do you mean that you don't want me?
Right.
I mean, it's like, how dare you not want me? You should be begging for me to be in this class, in this group.
Yeah, and so let me add to that. When you said the gentleman in Loveland too, and the group was great about it, it wasn't a rejection.
No.
It was an honoring, and then here's what we do in our group. And if you don't want to be a part of that, that's fine. And again, it's not a rejection. It's just like, here's what we're about.
Right. It was handled totally different with that group. With him, it was very inclusive, but really having to set boundaries. Everybody's resetting boundaries like every 3 minutes with him. But I was amazed how we got through the whole meeting with as disruptive as he was without it disrupting the whole group.
Yeah, there was even, absolutely. I just wrote that down, inclusive with boundaries. And that gentleman even asked me, like, how long is this section going to be? And I said 30 minutes, and you're welcome to stay or go. It's up to you. And he actually left for that 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And they came back at the end. But yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Linda. Awesome. So Cynthia, I'm going to jump back to the list, and I would love for you to jump in with another example of when one of these has been held and done well, from your memory.
I mean, where we've talked about kind of the elephant in the room, this is the one that that just strikes me the most. I'm even thinking about facilitating, and just the whole idea of like the elephant in the room can be how the energy in the room shifts, and how, you know, a couple weeks ago in facilitating, all of a sudden I felt like things start to get heavy, but didn't know what to do about that. And I was like trying to do my normal habit of just like keep going, and then it'll all work out. And Jeff really modeled really well of how you can course correct in the middle of what you're doing. So to me, elephant in the room isn't necessarily like negative influence. It's just sometimes reading the energy. And as I'm learning to do that more and more, it would be really cool to either get better at anticipating there maybe will be like an elephant in the room in every group, because we're all bringing our stuff to the table, kind of anticipating that there's always going to be something you need to course correct with. Or it'd be really fun to hear from everyone else if they have any thought processes or metaphors that remind them when they feel something needs to change, but they don't know how to like give themselves permission to pause, and what's like the first step to take to start, you know, steering the elephant out the door. So,
Amanda, I'd love for you to jump in on that. We talked about that. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think you're gonna find some keys for yourself here with the sentences and the sentence starters that we have for you, because I also am like you, Cynthia. I want that sentence starter to just be almost on automatic, because once it starts flowing, then my brain kicks in and I know what to say. Mm-hmm. And not everybody does that. Other people have other awarenesses. But for me, if I can just start talking, then it's good. Sometimes I call myself clairspeakient, because I can just say it better than I can think it or write it or anything. So to know that about yourself, that if you just can start it off. So for example, I love the idea of knowing that there's always going to be something that you're going to want to address or shift or pivot in a meeting, whether it's shortening up the activity or reminding people about time or reminding people about an event or whatever. I think a key for you, and this is on our list, is I'm noticing. You know, I'm noticing the energy just went zhuzh, you know? So I want you to remember to like also connect to your vibrant globe or your yellow energy or whatever. Just make sure you're having fun with it. You know, something like that. But the I'm noticing. Sorry, am I echoing for everyone else? Yeah, okay. The I'm noticing might be a good start. I shared this as an example with Jeff when we were preparing, was that several times at CBC, when we had more of a culture of lateness, we would start out the meeting and maybe have 12, 15 people in the room. And so we'd give everybody like 2 minutes to talk, to intro themselves, or we'd say, you know what, we don't have the time today. And then as we were starting intros, like 10 or 15 more people would come in. And so at a certain point, I'd have to say, you know, I'm noticing that we have more people in our circle right now, and we've got to shorten the intro time so we can get to everyone. So let's bring the timer back in and go ahead and do a minute each. You know, but that I'm noticing word is just pointing out whatever's going on.
Amanda,
go ahead, Linda.
Oh, you brought up something that I personally struggle with, of what's the count, how many people determine whether it's a 30-second, a 45-second, or a 1 minute. Do you guys have some guidelines of what that is? Because I hate that I have to look at you guys and go, how many minutes?
Yeah, that's a
Is it
great
minute?
that's
Is
a
it
great
half?
question. So in my opinion, I love for Amanda to jump in too. I like to take about 15 minutes to do introductions. So if there's 15 people, I think 1 minute's good. If there's 25 people or 20 people, probably want to go more 30 seconds or 45 seconds. That's my opinion. And I mean, I'm sure we've all at least guested in groups that have 60 people when they all do 30 seconds. I mean, that's a half an hour if the timer's on, which just gets really, really, really long in my opinion. So I'd love for Amanda to jump in too.
You know, for CBC, for Wednesday CBC, that is almost always 15 people, and people don't always listen to the instruction of the day. They've been coming long enough that they just do what the culture says to do. And so I like just having it be 30 seconds. Once in a blue moon, we might change it, but 90% of the time it's going to be 30 seconds. And that allows me time in my facilitator mind for people to go over. Then I don't freak out if they go over 30 seconds. But if I give them a minute and they go over, then I'm like, tip tap my toe, I'm getting huffy and puffy. You know, but if they go over on 30 seconds, I'm not as upset. So I just like, boom, 30 seconds, done. If the host changes it, I'm probably not going to speak up. I'm probably going to watch them sink or swim. Unless they're like, everyone probably needs 2.5 minutes, you know, then I'm going to say something. But I'm probably going to let them see how it goes.
And we're actually going to talk about something like this a little bit later here right now. It depends on how strict you are when the timer goes off. And, you know, I've also found in Loveland that people are pretty good with 1 minute. So it's totally up to the facilitator, how the group runs, the culture of the timer, like how much they listen to the timer or not, things like that. So, Amanda, I would love, is it okay with you if I jump into the phrases? It really feels like we want to get into the phrases, and then we'll go more back into the direct sort of teaching and training on the other 2 slides. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds great.
Awesome. So let me share. So I'll speak through these. I'd love to pause. We have 15 right now. There's 2 pages, 15 total. And I'll read through 5 of them, and then I want to open it up and just unmute everyone and maybe have you raise your hand and jump in like, oh yeah, that one. And so we'll get that started now. I really want to respect your time. So here's what's going to happen. I really want to respect the group's time. So I need to move forward with this activity. It's really a preface for, okay, now I need to move us on to the next thing. Number 2, I noticed, and Amanda talked about this and with Cynthia, I noticed that we ran over a little bit in my activity, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we're on time now. Or I noticed the energy in the room just dropped, so like Vicky did, let's get up and take a stretch and let's stretch, you know. So I noticed this is happening in the room. 3, are you bringing up a new point, or is this related to our topic? And I'll go through the 5th one. I want Amanda to jump in on this one because I really think this is great. When someone's going off topic and you're not sure if they're going to circle it back or if they just went off on a totally other tangent, and it's sort of calling out the elephant of, is this bringing up a new point or is this related to our topic right now? And honoring that, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that, like, completely curious. Otherwise, it sounds like a little bit blamey for me, coming from me, you know. So are you bringing up a new point, or is this related to our topic? Because I couldn't see the connection, you know, and it's like telling them, like, bring it back. You know, I need to connect to this up. Or they could just say, well, it's kind of a new point, you know, and it's good, so.
Yeah, exactly. Frame and tone of voice and, of course, body language all are huge, as we know, but that's a great, you know, I love that point. That's like, I need to really be curious.
Honest curiosity, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Number 4, I need to jump in for the sake of time. I call this blaming the boss. I really love this concept of, you know, oh, it's the time that's the boss right now. It's not me interrupting. It's I need to jump in for the sake of time, or the energy in the room felt like it just went down. It's not like someone's fault, like, oh, Tom over there, you know, wet blanket Tom, we need to get up and stretch now. It's, oh, the energy in the room. Oh, okay, that's what we need. That's what we have to honor right now. So I call that blaming the boss, where it's not singling anyone out. It's not personalizing it to any particular person.
Don't blame Tom. Blame the boss. Poor Tom.
Yeah. Poor Tom. And number 5, that sounds like a great topic for offline or after the meeting. So please, please unmute yourself. I'd love for you to jump in. I'll bring the screen back right now. What do you feel about those? We'll just hit on these for a few minutes. What do you feel about those first 5, and what's like, yeah, I can use that in this situation?
Well, I really appreciate those a lot, and I was giggling a little bit because I suddenly had a polarizing idea in my head of things like that really make me nervous because I want to be sensitive and kind but aware. I just thought how funny it would be to have the exact opposite of them, like what you would say. That would be like the worst possible option, like the bloopers reel of like, you know, your idea really sucks and we just need to move on. Or like, I don't know, it just was cracking me up. The Darth Vader version of these would be really fun.
So let's see, yeah, like blame, call them out, judge them. Like, wow, that was...
Well, since everyone was late today, I guess we're only going to have 20 seconds.
Yeah, get on your high horse a bunch.
Crack the whip.
Where are you going with this?
You don't need to hear your whole life story. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, save that shit for another time. Like, don't bring that here.
That's not what we're talking about right now.
So we could all make a bloopers video on the appropriate things to say while facilitating.
Yeah.
Awesome. Who else? Well, what kind of like impact did the first 5 have for you?
I like the number 3. Are you bringing up a new point, or is this related to our topic? I think that's a lot better than saying what I thought in my head is like, is this applicable? Like, how is what you're saying applicable right now? I know that that's a little harsh to say, is this applicable? But
yeah, it's like defend how this is valuable is what you know. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what came to my first thing that came to my head is like, oh, is this applicable? And then I'm like, no, this is better to say. It's more respectful to say. But the first thing that jumps in my head when someone goes off topic, I'm like, how is this applicable? Like, get to the point. But that's my male animal brain speaking. You know?
Well, that's your honest question. It's just that you kind of want to give them another option besides defending, you know? It's like, are you bringing up a new point? Because you're not judging them for that if you're just honestly asking. Or does this relate and I'm not seeing it? Or something.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, and I also, Justin, I recognized the second before you said, it's kind of my male brain. I think guys may just be a little more direct. Like, hey, dude, we're not talking about basketball right now. Like, how is that applicable? But I love what Amanda just said about give them an out, right? Like, totally. For myself, too. You don't want to verbally back someone into a corner, even accidentally. It's like, oh, I didn't give them an out here. So I love that concept, yeah.
So, Justin, you could be a lawyer. That would be, or a judge. That is totally acceptable there.
Yeah.
I would have to sell my soul, but yes.
That's why we're all here and not in a corporate JOB, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Please, anyone else in these first 5, and then I'll read the next 5 and we'll move on. Something really hit you?
Well, I really love that sounds like a great topic for offline after the meeting. I mean, I've seen Amanda use that just beautifully many times, and I'm always impressed with the grace of how that just, moves things on. And no one feels offended, it's a really lovely phrase.
And that works for if people are having like a conversation between each other as well. Not just you and them, but it might be like, A and B, and you can be like, you guys have a lot more to talk about after the meeting.
Nice. Yeah, Vicky, I think you were going to jump in.
Yes, I was going to say let's see, related to, are you bringing up a new point or is it related to our topic? I really admire how Amanda stays grounded enough to realize when the train is being taken off the track. Because sometimes somebody will say something and I'll think, I mean, I just sort of go with them in what they say. And then Amanda says something like, look, gosh, that sounds like a great idea for later, or, or is this a new topic? And then I'm just so impressed. I'm like, oh, right, we're supposed to be doing this. We're not walking off the path today into the woods. So I admire how you stay grounded enough to know or to recognize when we're being taken away.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, that's part of our role as facilitator, to keep things on track. It's not we're being rude, or we're honoring them, and that's our job. It's to keep on time, keep things moving forward. So yeah, number 6. I totally see what you're saying. However, today the context is this. This is great when people have really strong opinions on something, or they're looking at something at a different angle that maybe we didn't consider, or that's a different angle on our activity. Even if we're teaching an activity in a certain way and they kind of want to be the devil's advocate and like take over. I totally see what you're saying. However, today the context is this. Mm-hmm. And we can come back to these, of course. Number 7, like always, please feel free to take care of your needs. This is kind of like what Justin brought up, or when there's something going on outside of the meeting or the room that needs to be addressed. And I love the like always kind of comment. Like always, please feel free to take care of your needs. So it's, hey, even if I don't say this next week or next month, like always, please feel free to take care of yourself. And we'll come back to these. Number 8, today I'm going to ask you to stretch. But if you feel this will be a strain, please feel free to take care of yourself and step out. And Amanda will give examples of that here in a minute. Number 9, I know a lot of us are coaches and healers in here, but today I could say, instead of your job, I'm going to change that to our job. Our job is to be an active listener, simply hold space and receive. So this is kind of we're not going to give unsolicited advice. We're not going to be doing coaching right now. We're here to listen, hold space, and receive. Number 10, thank you for that idea. Right now, we're simply being active listeners and holding space. That's the same vein of, hey, that may be great advice, or that may be someone's wheelhouse, but right now we're simply being active listeners and holding space. So yeah, Amanda, I'd love for you to jump in and talk about a couple of these, please.
Yeah. These are some of them, they're all related to the situations that we talked about at first. So I think I'll address the 2 about taking care of your own needs. These are like if someone doesn't want to participate, or, if someone really doesn't want to participate, what they'll usually do is just leave. If they're on the fence, they might ask you, oh, I don't know if this is going to be good for me. That means they're on the fence and they're asking for a little input from you. So you don't want to get too apologetic too quick and just be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, please leave if you need to. If they're really on the fence and they're considering stretching for the activity, then that's why we put that in there of, check in if this is a stretch, like a good stretch for you, or it's going to be a strain and it's just going to go way over your boundary. Another way I say that is like, is this a few steps out of your comfort zone, or is this like a mile out of your comfort zone? Because if it's a mile out of your comfort zone, it's fine to just take the day off or go wait out in the hallway. I did have a situation one time at CBC several years ago where someone wanted to not participate in the activity, but it was vulnerable enough for the others that I didn't feel it was appropriate for him to like stay in the room with us while we were doing the vulnerable part of the activity and just like be a watcher, you know. It felt weird. So that person actually ended up taking themselves out of the meeting within, you know, a minute or so before I had a chance to figure out how to ask them to leave. But then the next time I did that activity, I stated that at the beginning and said, if you're not into this today, if it's going to be way too far out of your comfort zone, you're welcome to grab a seat in the hall while we do this, or take care of yourself in whatever way. So I learned from that first time that I don't want the watchers in the room. But that's kind of the concept, is like, check in with them if it's a stretch, because you want them to stretch and you want them to have that little extra piece of, it's okay to stretch and it's okay to feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So let's see if there's another one I can touch on, and then I'd love for you guys to give feedback as well. Yeah, the whole extra advice thing that we have here is really smart. And of course, these are, that one, the number 9 right there. I know a lot of us are coaches and healers in here. Today, our job is to be active listeners and hold space and receive. That's best said up front, right? Proactive, preemptive strike there. But it's okay to say this at any point. If someone has already advised, still works. They'll still get it.
Yeah, so please give us some feedback. I'd love to hear maybe from 2 or 3 of you at least, a feedback of 6 through 10. I'm going to call it the elephant in the room. The energy is like, wow, yeah, okay, someone probably just stepped over an invisible boundary, gave advice, or really likes to give advice. Sometimes we call this, and this is a different connotation sometimes, but being in like a king energy of, I'm going to step in and give advice without even being asked, maybe, when it may not be appropriate. I know king energy is used in different ways, but it's sort of that like, oh yeah, I know what to do. And so we're all feeling a little bit more like, maybe it's a little bit more confrontational situation. And so these things are a little bit maybe more touchy. So please jump in and share with us how you feel about these 5.
I like the one that says, I know a lot of us are coaches and healers in here, because you're kind of calling out, okay, we know your norm is to jump in and give advice, but we're actually asking you to not be your norm and stretch, and you're kind of putting that preemptive there that we're asking you to do what you don't normally do. We're asking you to think outside the box. And that kind of puts them in the right mindset going into the activity, versus if you just assume they're going to do that, or if you have to mention that in the middle of the activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. Like, you know where they're going to go. And I know where coaches are going to go because I go there. My brain patterns are like wired to be, let me find an answer for you. Let me help. And it is an effort to go into receiver mode. What does this mean for me? Mode. Sometimes I say, if there's going to be like coaching or something going on in front of the room, sometimes I say, don't watch this in TV mode. This isn't something happening out there. It's about you, what's going on inside. So yeah, to pre-guess what their auto response is going to be. Great awareness on that.
I love the analogy of TV mode versus an active listener.
Yeah.
Yeah. So please, who else jump in? How did these 5 hit you?
I really like the number 8. I'm gonna ask you to stretch. If you feel this will be a strain, please feel free to take care of yourself, because when I'm teaching, sometimes I'm asking people to really think about things in a different kind of way, and that can be exhausting for people. right? It really can, to, you know, spend like more than that much time in really unfamiliar land.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm asking them to spend like that much time in unfamiliar land and really stay open to it. And that can be uncomfortable for some people. Some people love it, and some people like it's like, you know, that's it. I can handle that much.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to think about a little bit more about how to handle that. It's tricky to meet everybody's needs in that kind of situation, right? How some people like to stretch a lot more than others, and you don't really know. They don't even know really until you're there in the room having this experience. So, you know, what have you guys found when you maybe it's not a huge group, maybe it's not 30 people, maybe it's 15 people, and, you know, a few people in there, 3 of those 15 people are just finding it to be a little bit too much of a stretch. You know, is there another one of these lines that you go to, or, you know, how do you support the minority?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to give you a little picture here, Amber, to set people up for newness. I bet you've seen this before, but I have found it really helpful, like talking about their comfort zone and saying, no, I don't want you here, and I don't want you way out here. I want you to just be on the edge here, like stretch out and just maybe one step out to expand your comfort zone. And have you seen that before?
Yeah, I think I have. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like you're prepping their mind that this is going to be a little bit awkward and new, right? And then when they feel like checking out and being like, whoa, 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 you know, you can say, okay, what just happened? Did we go here, or are we here already? Or are we somewhere like maybe here? And we can just scale it back a little bit and be okay. Gives you all the same playing field that you're on. And I do think that it is a job of the facilitator, kind of like a yoga teacher, to have different levels. You know, if you can't do all this and go here, at least come with me to here. Agree on this. And then just hang out there for a while. You know, you're the queen of this slow pacing someone's growth, right?
Yeah, let me piggyback on what Amanda said. Absolutely, I agree with the comfort zone. And if you know something is going to be triggering, if a topic is going to be potentially triggering, we want to preface with more of this type of talk, like you said, Amber, ahead of time. I find exactly the same as you, that if people are surprised that you're asking them to stretch, they can feel like violated, or their boundaries have been violated, and now they feel uncomfortable. But if you let them know ahead of time, and you're basically asking permission, especially one-on-one coaching, I ask permission when I know I'm going to go deeper. But in a group, it's letting them know, here's where we're going to go, and this is why. This reminds me really similarly of Cynthia's activity and the situation she talked about, how I made the decision to kind of chat with her for 20 seconds in the middle of her activity, because it was challenging for a couple of people in the room. Like, you know, I mean, I can only speak from my experience, but I saw a couple people with their faces were like, okay, you know. And so and Cynthia's taking care of everybody, and I just happened to notice these 2 people. And so I reminded her, like, hey, let's remind them why we're doing this, and that we're going to come out of this sort of like depth. And I look at it as, so I wrote this comfort zone circle down too that Amanda did. And I look at it as you're tethering them like with a bungee or a rope. So I just did a squiggly line. You're tethering them inside their comfort zone and like saying, hey, we're going to pop out of your comfort zone a bit, and we're going to come back for this reason. And I anchor it in a value they want. We're doing it for, in my example a lot, for the betterment of your family, the relationship with your child or with your spouse. Or if we're in a business meeting, we're doing this so that you can better connect with your clients and therefore retain more clients, land more clients, and make more money, or whatever the topic is. You're tethering them back to that want So it reminds them, oh, this is why I'm stretching, is because I want this value. And reminding them of that, especially when they're like down in the depths of it. It's like, yeah, we're doing this because we're going to come out and this is what you're going to get out of it. So those are the things I would add on absolutely to what Amanda said as well.
Yeah, I really love the concept of tethering it to something. And Cynthia and I were talking about this, about the having a great metaphor that might also paint the picture of where we're going and why this is going to be a little uncomfortable and stretchy. So I just thought of one, Cynthia, that I didn't think of the other day, which is when I was teaching my feminine presence class, I would say, okay, so in our society, the pendulum is swung over to the masculine. The U.S. values masculine energy, masculine values, etc. So in this class, we're going to swing the pendulum all the way over to the feminine and be like super feminine in this room and explore all our feminine qualities. And you have permission to like go for it while you're here, because that way, when you go out into the real world, you're going to be a nice balance of both. But like, let people, just explore their edge over here, and let go of some of the stuff. So how's this all hitting you, Amber? Oh, I see Linda's hand too, but let's check back in with Amber.
That's great. Super useful. I think it's really important to set expectations, and that's part of creating the culture, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even if it's just one-on-one work or, whatever size group, really setting expectations that we are going to step outside the comfort zone a little bit. That's what we do and why we do it.
That's why you hired me. Yeah.
Right.
That's why
exactly.
That's why you're here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you can see it applying to your situations.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Miss Linda?
What comes to mind with me is an activity I did with Blue Lions, where they're not used to going in depth, with activities. And I did one that was probably pretty tough for a first one for them to do, but I got really good response from it. And it was looking at blind spots that they might have, or something that they're struggling with that they would like to have other eyes on to see if they can get other opinions on. And I started it out with telling them that, this is going to be different than what you guys have experienced. It's going to be a stretch. Participate as much as you want. Everything in here, we have agreement that everything that's said here stays here, and that there's no judgment. Remember that just because someone gives you advice doesn't mean you have to take it. And we went through and did the activity that was guiding them through their concerns. And I could not shut those tables up. They were so jazzed. They did not want to stop. And they even said, well, this would be a really good 2-hour activity. just to delve into this. And they were really, really excited about it and came back with how helpful it was. But it was, you could see the terror in their eyes. And I said, this is a chance for you to be vulnerable with other people, and this is a chance for you to honor their vulnerability. And our whole point of getting to know each other is to get to know our foibles, our fears, and our wins. Mm. And maybe you guys can come up with other ideas to help each other. Cool. And they were just fervently writing, what their own things were, but also what people were suggesting. And they all just were so happy at the end. And it was a really good connective. But setting that up first, that it was confidential, that be respectful, it's okay to be vulnerable, but be vulnerable at a point, at your level.
It is so good when people stretch together and they go to some place that wasn't safe before and they make it out alive together.
Yeah.
Bond for life, man. It is really, really awesome. If you do this right, it's so great. And you don't have to get it perfect. It's I don't think I've ever had a perfect CBC meeting. And we've had a ton of amazing ones. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I also encouraged them to take it, if you guys want to continue this, because I couldn't get them to stop, set up a time, maybe go to lunch today or go do something with your table as a group and continue the conversation. And I'd say half of the tables right then and there made appointments. So that was cool.
Vicki, did you want to add on? Yeah.
I was just thinking about the Millionaire Mind Intensive seminar series that T. Harv Eker used to do, and now he has sold the company, somebody else does it. But he starts right off at the beginning, laying the foundation of just basically the bottom line of it is he says you're going to be out of your comfort zone the whole weekend, so kind of get used to it, But I mean, he prefaces it, he does it gently and wonderfully and in an inviting way. And it's he talks about how you do anything is how you do everything. So we're here, to notice how you do notice. He'll say, as we go through these various activities, notice what you feel, how you do it, and then how many times does the same pattern show up in other places in your life. And what Amanda said is so true. We come out at the people that we partner with for these various activities he sets up for us to do. We do feel like we have gone to the foxhole together, and we're, some lifelong friendships that started there.
Yeah, totally. Setting the groundwork. Notice what you feel. Do these come up as patterns in your life otherwise? And asking them to stretch, just setting that foundation. And I noticed something that Linda said too, which was giving them, all of us here do our own work as far as what do I want to feel when this is done? Cynthia and I did a TV interview actually really recently, and she asked me, what do we want to feel? What do you want to feel when we're done with this? Because it was 2 professional cameras. It was like the most professional shot that I'd done, light, the whole 9. And, we talked about how we wanted to feel when we were done. I don't think everyone does that. And between the lines, I noticed that Linda was sort of giving them a little bit of, yeah, I hope that this does this for you and you feel this along the way. And afterwards you could do this. It's really giving them a path, like drawing the map for them so they're not lost in the woods, right? It's kind of drawing that path out for them. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I told them they were going to be vulnerable at the beginning and get the support from each other through it and hopefully gather new ideas and how to tackle whatever that issue was that they were wanting to address. And so they could see it's like icky to stepping out of it.
Nice. Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, let's move forward. I love it. I love your interactions, guys. This is great. So let's move forward to looks like I have 4 more here. And then Amanda and I want to get into some direct training on timing and pacing. We'll spend probably about 7 minutes on these here. Number 11. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, we're going to lose Amber here in a couple minutes. She's got a client, and Rich said hello, but he can't be here today. So just want to acknowledge the group. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, good to see you, Amber. So number 11, I hear you. Here in this group, and then insert what you want to say there. For instance, respect and value others' space and opinions. This is a bit more when there's like an actual hostile, like Linda was saying, there's someone really speaking out or really stepping on toes or really feeling like they need to be heard or they're kind of on a power trip. I hear you. Here in this group, we respect and value others' space and opinions. I'm happy to talk about this more after the meeting. Number 12, this one I think about when someone's really going over their time, and it's my job as the host or facilitator to kind of interject myself. So I raise my hand. I really raise my hand high. I'll come back. So I really raise my hand high, and sometimes I even kind of like shake my hand like, hey, I need to say something. Hey, And I was the facilitator at the beginning. You know, I'm standing up, I'm introducing the whole group, so it's quite obvious of my role. And it's like, hey, it's my job here to be the facilitator. So really raise my hand high, like this. And I love your energy. Right now we are, and then I blame the boss of the agenda. Oh, it's the agenda's fault. I have to interrupt you right now. You know? Oh yeah, so we really need to stay on time, and I love your energy and your idea. And again, I'd love to talk about that after the meeting or offline. Right now, we are doing this on the agenda. Number 13, no matter how you feel about X, we honor your opinion. Today is about this activity, and so let's focus on our common goal. I think the easy one here is politics, right? No matter how you feel about X, we honor your opinion. Today is about growing clients and connection with clients. Let's focus on our common goal. And number 14, thank you for sharing. Again, you're honoring the situation. I love this one. Ties into what Amber had asked about what do we do? And Vicki did this with the stretching. Let's all take a deep breath together, send our best wishes if there was a heavy situation that was brought up possibly, and bring ourselves into the present moment. Thank you for sharing. Let's all take a deep breath together, send our best wishes, and bring ourselves into the present moment. So let's take about 5 minutes to share on these 4. Who would like to jump in of how these hit you, where you feel you could use this?
The reason we put the deep breath in there, Cynthia, great, is just seems to be the quickest way to all do something together that can seal something up. If somebody, in their intro drops a big situation, it's the quickest one. There's lots of things you could do, but I think the deep breath is easiest. What are you noticing, Cynthia?
Well, because all of these are so valuable, and I've been watching myself as we've been going through them, like this range of emotion of like, oh yeah, to like, oh crap, I won't remember to say that, to like, oh, here's how I'll actively put this and use this. And something that really struck me is I was watching myself or feeling myself, and this is me calling out my elephant, getting like heavier and heavier. And it suddenly struck me that when I am stepping into these kind of questions, I'm inviting people into like my inner circle. To me, there's something very intimate about this kind of facilitation versus I'm the facilitator and I've got a glass wall and we're just going to do whatever I say. And so it's striking me that, at least for me, whatever my past experience of kind of speaking to what I'm feeling or directing energy or kind of calling things out, I'm feeling that kind of old story of how that used to work in my family. So I just wanted to share that because I feel the process of this, and I can even hear in my head they're going to say to me X. So yeah, I just wanted to value, like, this is incredibly valuable. Thank you. I wanted to call out, like, wow, this can be intense in its intimacy. And then just put that out there if anyone else notices that kind of background or can relate. So
it's a great
Thank you for bringing that up, because you know what, it just occurred to me as you were saying that is that sometimes I feel like I'm so in charge of the results, or or I have to stay on script, or it has to go a certain way. So what you're saying just plants a thing in my brain to just let, if somebody brings up something heavy or something needs to be addressed, these are really great ideas and sentence starters to deal with them. And I should just feel the freedom to use some of them and practice them ahead of time so that they're memorized to draw from when I need them, and to not worry about what do I look like as the host or as the facilitator or the group leader. You know, this is really about taking care of the people who come to the meeting and simultaneously moving the meeting forward. So thanks for bringing that up. That's really great. And Amanda, I really want to compliment you too on something I saw, I don't know, a month or so ago at CBC when, oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, somebody, had to do with the money magnet. And somebody in the group said something like, well, I don't care about money and I just want to serve, and, you know, we're all going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya or something. You know, it was kind of the energy there. And boy, you interrupted that in the very best way. Well, here, we're about bothness. We love money. We welcome it, and we are about service and profit. So, and then but you said some other statement that I don't remember exactly what it was, but it made her feel like it was an invitation for her to join that mindset rather than, I mean, you didn't shun her and say, we don't use language like that here. Young lady, no, it was more, it was like you just verbally wrapped your arms around her and just, you know, like invited her to just be part of this mindset of bothness. It's so well done.
Wow, thank you, Vicki. I'm really happy to hear that, and I really want to give you the behind the scenes of that, which I was already going to bring up when Cynthia mentioned, you know, oh man, how am I going to remember all of these? And I just want to let you know, you're not. You're not going to remember them in every situation. You're going to remember a few, but what we're trying to do here is just chop that learning curve way down to 1/10 of what it has to be. You know, you don't have to learn these all the hard way. And by saying that, how I handled that comment in CBC is an example of me getting a heads up. Like, we're trying to give you guys a heads up with this today. So Corrine had been at Jeff's meeting the day before, recognized her little troublemaker, and come to me and said, you got to watch out. You know, because she's an experienced facilitator as well. So as soon as she took the floor, I was like, what's going to happen? You know, it was like my hand was right on the draw, like ready to go. And so that's what we're trying to do for you guys today, is give you a heads up. These people are going to be in your meeting. Now, I can't tell you when, and I can't tell you which one, but hopefully that chops the learning curve down. But please know that just because we've told you all of, you know, these ones today doesn't mean that we expect that you, well, why didn't you just use that phrase? You know, we talked about that 2 weeks ago. Like, this is a process. So we're getting, you know, they'll sink in over time, and you'll find your own words over time. Just want to put that out there. It's very on the job training. Facilitation is so, I love it because it's so complex. And it's so nuanced and subtle and beautiful like that.
And I suppose every meeting that we each facilitate or host, that we will probably come away with, oh, I could have done this better. Next time I could have done. So we'll get better with it with practice and with time. And we can't rehearse every situation that may arise, but you've done a great job of I got a tickle all of a sudden, of covering the common ones, repetitive ones.
Good.
Yeah, Linda.
So for me, one of the themes I keep seeing and feeling through this whole thing is I've really paid attention to some people who facilitate by talking to and running the meeting, talking to everyone, versus what we're all about is talking with everyone and being inclusive and guiding, and the true word of facilitating, moving them through that process versus standing up there and being the expert, being the, I think there's a big difference in that and the whole feeling of it.
Awesome.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, fantastic. Good, amazing. Glad this is coming across so well. Huh? You guys appreciate it. That's great.
Yeah.
I love all the feedback of this group. I mean, one of the big resources that we have all together is us sharing together here too, and giving our stories and examples here. So I honor you guys for that too.
Yeah, and as for the heaviness that you're feeling, this is us arming you for the heavier parts of being a facilitator. So, yeah, and I don't have to use, I would say I don't even have to use one of these phrases every single time, So it's not all the time that this comes up, but to be ready feels so powerful up in front of the room. And it feels like I can take responsibility for what goes on in my room, because now I know that if something comes up, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Well, right.
Jeff, I just would especially like to compliment your last point there on number 14 about honoring the heavy thing that comes up. Because I saw this happen in the worst of ways, actually in the worst of places. It was a very tiny church congregation of about 20 people. And as part of their worship service, they have this time of open sharing where people can, just offer a praise, a prayer, or, gosh, I really would like for us to sing this song or whatever. And one day in this group, this person stood up and said, my husband left me last night. And the group was like stunned and shocked at first. Nobody saw that coming, but then it was like brush it under the carpet. The response of the pastor was sort of like, he didn't really say these words, but the way it got handled was sort of like, oh, well, that's not really what we do here, or something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, this poor person just put their heartache out. You would expect to find the most encouragement and stuff like that, and instead it was like, it's sort of like, we don't really talk about that here, let's move on. And I just thought, oh, that poor woman was just so I just want to really honor what you have brought up, and the thing of, let's just breathe together, let's surround this person, let's so thanks for that. That's a really, really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly. Thank you, Vicki. And that reminds me of the first tenet of CBC is oneness. We all go through similar emotional experiences. And so if there was a step-by-step for this, the number one step would be honor and connect with them emotionally. So that was the opportunity to be like, oh, wow. We all go through these really tough surprise situations. They may be different for all of us, but wow, yeah. And, like being in that with them for a second, at least, and so they feel honored and connected with. Same with anyone, regardless of their age, is they want to feel that you feel the same emotion, and then you can move forward. So yeah, thank you for saying that, Vicki. Awesome.
And really quick to add to that was just acknowledging that this is whatever group you're in, especially CBC, that this is, I'm so grateful that you felt like you could share that. That's what makes this group so different.
Yeah. Awesome.
And, and that creates that unified bond within the group.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. So I love our sharing. So for the sake of time, I'm going to move us forward onto the next slide. Fantastic. So yeah, we're going to talk about timing and pacing, managing time Let me touch on some things, and I'd love for Amanda to circle around. And we have 16 minutes, 15 minutes right now for our final 2 slides. Managing time. So be on time. As a facilitator, I'm always 10 to 15 minutes early. My goal is to be 15 minutes early. Be on time starting and ending. I put some bullets here. The group will follow your examples or your example. So if you're late or if you start late, they're going to feel that they can show up late. And then you get that problem of people coming in and all this. Perception of respecting their time. So if you just blow past every week, you know, the ending time, say 10:30 for CBC, if it's 10:30, 10:35, 10:40, I wouldn't continue to go to a group that didn't respect, at least acknowledge and respect my time, because I don't know when I can schedule the next thing in my day. Or also, if you're not respecting the time of the group, it says a lot of, you know, how you do one thing is how you do everything, right, Vicki? So it's like, what else? What other boundaries does this person not respect, or this group not respect? Plan to end on time, but of course adjust as soon as possible by saying things like, for the sake of time, or I'm noticing. So again, it's not perfect. We're not shooting for perfection. It's, you can adjust, but do that as soon as you can. Mm-hmm. Another big point is less is more. It's much better to have more audience involvement, asking open-ended questions that can lead into really great material you never really even considered. Asking for more or less feedback can take more time. And then asking for their takeaways can take up time. So when you're thinking, should I just jam more information here? If I just like shoot the fire hose down their throat, you know, is that going to be better? No, probably not. You want to like hand them a drink of water and then ask them for more involvement, questions, feedback. And then one last point on managing time is to be super clear with instructions if you're asking them to do something, especially for breakout groups. Telling them exactly, okay, here's what you're doing. You're doing step 1, 2, 3, or step 1 and 2, and not just expecting them to sort of facilitate their own little small group. It's our job to be really clear on instructions. So Amanda, please, jump in. I'd love to hear what you also have to say about this page.
Yeah, I just have a couple little stories there. Along the less is more, my favorite phrase for speeches and presentations is, when in doubt, leave it out. Just leave out that section. If you're on the bubble, then you can leave it out. If you're sure it needs to go in, then make sure it fits your time. A great thing when you are asking for feedback or takeaways is ask for a number. I'd like to take 2 shares right now from 2 people that want to say what they received or something like that, because that lets us know this isn't endless. And it also lets the people know if they want to share, they got to share now. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm kind of working back, like backwards up the slide instead of down.
Yeah.
And then as far as like, Jeff said it perfectly, like we're not shooting for perfection, but we need to have the perception of respecting their time. So, CBC has a value of ending on time. When we go over, we acknowledge that we went over. Hey guys, we went over a little bit today, but our goal is always 10:30. And of course, if you ever need to leave right at 10:30, it's totally fine. And sometimes I even say that before the tune-in. If we're like 4 or 5 minutes over already, and then it gives people permission to get out the door, and then the people that can stay, the tune on. People that can stay for the tune on. So that's important. And then I just wanted to share a quick adjustment that I made on Tuesday at CBC. I thought I could see the clock, but I couldn't see the clock. I was looking at the wrong hand of the clock the whole time I was gauging my time. So by the time I got people into small groups, I was way off. So, it happens. So what I did to adjust was, instead of having 4 people in a group that I wanted, I did 3 people in a group, which is the tiniest little adjustment. But I just shortened that round robin thing for them. I just chopped off a quarter of it. So think about that when you're assigning groups. If you have no time, a 2-person share is the fastest. A group of 3 or 4 is exponentially takes longer time. So that's one easy way to adjust that I had to do because that was the only thing left in my presentation. So that's what had to get cut. If I had seen it earlier, I would have cut some of the presentation. But being really fluid about your presentation is really great. I saw Jeff do it on Wednesday when he said, you know what, we have 60 seconds left. Actually, we don't have any time at all. I want to respect your time, so I'm going to wrap up right now. Thank you, everybody. Great job. Like, he just took off that last share. So it feels a little brutal, but everyone appreciates it.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Total. And that's an amazing tip, Amanda, about how if you only have a little bit of time, a 2-person share, a 2-person group is going to be the fastest. And that's an amazing tip. Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love the stories. So our last page here is on managing pacing. And this is a little bit more expansive of a topic. In other words, in your group, your schedule may be totally different, say, than CBC. And so it's about pacing of how do you want the flow of the group to go. And it's also pacing of how, so I'll read through this. Creating the agenda of the meeting and/or activity. So the agenda of the meeting, what do I want to include? For instance, intros, housekeeping. Like, how long does housekeeping take? Is it like super tedious and boring, or do I have a way to keep it rolling? Can do something while other things are happening. The pacing for the speaker. Amanda and I, when we were prepping, talked about how the number one priority isn't the speaker's like golden time. It's the speaker is here to be a part of our meeting, a part of our group. And if intros took 2 minutes longer or 4 minutes longer, that's okay. If shares take a little bit longer, that's okay. And to let the speaker know that ahead of time. And also the flow of for the speaker ahead of time too. I'll let Amanda tell a story about how that maybe had happened with a speaker that kind of started earlier than expected. Mm-hmm. Also, there's recognition of members. You want to take time for that, and how do you include that and pace that? Or does your group have unique rituals and routines? If it takes really long one week and it's really fast another week, you might want to consider, okay, what's the pacing look like, and how can I keep this a little bit more consistent, and so that the group anticipates. You want them to feel like they're part of the culture, and it's not a surprise or, wow, it feels like housekeeping's taking really long today. That's boring, and it's not going to be fun, right? So we want to consider that. Again, consistency, honoring. And then the timer. I wanted just to make, I kind of threw this tip in right here of some people don't honor a timer going off, especially if it just beeps and then the person turns the timer off. I personally like a timer that's kind of annoying, and I just let it go. I let it keep beeping and beeping and beeping. And again, the timer is the boss, right? It's not like me having to, let me just bring the screen back here for a second. I absolutely love everyone in CBC, and sometimes, like, I don't know how many have seen this, and I won't throw him under the bus, but when the time was up, he kind of did one of these, like did this, which I thought was really interesting, and it felt a little bit like, okay, shut up now. Like, shush. That's not what I would have done with the thing like this. I'd rather let the timer be the bad guy and just like beep, 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 and I'm not going to stop it until the person stops. So that's just one little tip example where it's like blame the boss, keep the structure, honor the structure, and a way to do that we don't have to be the bad guy. Yeah, Amanda, please. I'd love to hear your stories.
We'd love to empower you all to continue to let it beep as long as you possibly can. Sometimes it's just a reflex. Oh, something's beeping, turn it off, And so please let the timer beep. We're also on the lookout for a unique timer that doesn't sound like a phone. We have a pretty good one in Fort Collins, but it does get shut off a lot. But I know there's some better ones out there. So yeah. As far as everything else, I think, Jeff, you said it. When a speaker comes to CBC, it's not like we have less time for intros or less time for announcements at the end. We keep that really, really sacred. So this comes down to prioritizing, another word we have up there, what's the most important thing in the meeting, and making sure your structure of your meeting, as you guys go do your own meetings, reflects that. If the most important thing is your members getting time to talk, which I consider that my most important thing of CBC, then build it into the agenda. It's got to take up the most time then, or at least a good chunk of the time. The stories with the speakers, there was one speaker who didn't take up their whole time and didn't seem to know how to handle that. Some speakers have finished early, but of course they just asked for Q&A. One speaker we've had finished early and then, was like, well, I guess that's all I have, and so that would become your job to then step in and facilitate the Q&A. You always want to be ready with a question that you personally can get it started with. I mean, if everyone jumps in and they're like, oh, me, pick me, then you don't have to ask your question. But if you open it for questions and at any time, you want to have at least one question that you're ready with. So that only has happened once. Most speakers can talk for years. We have had speakers who really thought that when I asked them to stop at 10:20, that meant like that's the time. 10:20 to 10:30 is kind of when they can take orders, for their offer or something, or that's the time to start the Q&A. They don't get that we still have meeting business at the end of our meeting. So that's a time when I might use like a physical cue, like standing up out of my seat and letting them know we have a little business to take care of at the end of our meeting. But I just wanted to use that to bring up the visual and physical cues, like Jeff was referencing, raising the hand, can be really helpful, especially if a speaker is on stage standing up and you want to reclaim the room. Stand up, right? At first I would stand up just so they can see me. I'm at the back of the room, but I'm standing up, letting them know, warning, you're about to run out of time on my stage. And then I slowly walk to the front of the room, right? I might find a time to like almost start to clap my hands. Be like, is it time to clap yet? Are you wrapping up yet? All of these are just nonverbal physical cues that speakers who are watching the audience are going to really be aware of. So having a few of those up your sleeve is really important.
Very cool. Again, I want to respect our time. We have 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes left today. I want to bring up again, pacing and timing. It's going to depend on the culture of your group. A lot of the things we talked about for our leadership phrases are going to apply for the sake of time. I'm noticing, and then if in doubt, leave it out. Less is more. Get more audience involvement is a huge piece around trying not to fit too many things in and managing our time. So in that vein, I want to challenge you to give us a one-word feedback or how you're feeling about this training here today. One word about, something you've learned or an emotion that you're having now that we've gone through today. So I'm going to challenge you to give one word. Let's see if we can do that.
Great idea.
Yeah. Who's ready for their one word? No pressure.
Mine is clarity.
Clarity.
Mine is authority. To take authority, to take control of the authority I have as the facilitator.
Awesome.
I'll write these down. That's great.
And we should play people off like the Oscars in the group. I think that'll work out well.
Just start the music.
Just blast the music.
Just gets higher and higher the more they speak until they finally stop.
Again, it only happens once in a while, but it's so nice to have it when you need it. The strategy.
I'm challenged. So.
Challenged. Ooh.
Feels like, stretching, right? That's good.
That's great.
Linda, how about you?
Presence. Having presence. Being present.
Yeah. Really, really good. I want to recommend a book real quick called The Six Hats. And 6 hats. And it's a problem-solving book, but the blue hat is the facilitation hat. And you can probably look this up online without even buying the whole book. And it's a great definition of facilitating, managing time, etc. And the challenge that I'd love to leave you with here is to use a few of these phrases. As Vicki said, practicing them coming out of your mouth ahead of time is going to be so valuable. So use them in times when you need them in meetings, but also just practice saying them. We'll try to email them out, I suppose, Jeff. That would be helpful.
Yeah, certainly. Absolutely, we'll do that. Yeah, and I want to remind you that we are going to ask you to lead and do some other leadership activities here with us on the call, so be prepared for that in the future.
Wink, wink. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Phenomenal. Great to see you all. We'll say
Great
goodbye.
work.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.